An often repeated warning by medical scientists: eat healthy foods and test your food or face health problems. A greater percentage of human illnesses, some fatal, are diet-related. The CSIR Food Research Institute in Accra proves that the item you may be putting in your food, or the food in collective sense, may not be free from pathogens. A pathogen is a bacterium, virus, or any other microorganism that causes disease. The Food Microbiology Laboratory of the CSIR Food Research Institute receives and tests food, mainly from businesses, to determine their state of wholesomeness. But that represents a very large ratio, between 30 million Ghanaians and cases that are actually submitted for analysis. The wide vacuum leaves a fluid and opportunistic medical conditions in humans to be diagnosed in hospitals. The preventive aspect of the cycle is when samples of a product are taken and investigated before consumption takes place. A solvent is applied on the sample on a plate to dissolve it. The spout of the bottle containing the solvent is flamed to sterilize that item before contents touch the sample plate. Dr. Margaret Owusu sheds more light on this stage of the process.
If you don't work under sterile conditions and sterilize everything, then you are also introducing, then whatever you come up with, you can't say that it's from the food. It could be from your environment or the things you used.
The lab scientist doing food analysis follows a guide not to introduce external contaminants at any stage of the process, so the sample remains in its original state. Here, you can see professionals sanitizing their hands before moving to the next stage, where items are placed in a safety cabinet. The sample is broken into bits, diluted to loosen the compact sample and allow ingredients in it to be properly identified or assessed. Continuing the process of testing from here, Dr. Margaret Owusu, head of the Food Microbiology Lab of the CSIR Food Research Institute, talks about a mechanism that grows and makes bacteria obvious.
Once they are set, then you can incubate them at the appropriate temperature and leave it to grow.
The plates containing the cultured samples being analyzed are then placed in an incubator at temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius. When the plates were taken out, the microorganisms that cannot be seen with ordinary eyes and hidden in the food had grown and became exposed. The samples are then placed on a machine called the colony counter, which magnify the characteristics of the organism. It is also the formula for counting and to know the density of the colony or pathogens. The lab conducts analysis on animal feed as well.
We also undertake research. In the research part of our work, we work with the beneficial organisms. Usually when we talk about the beneficial organisms, these are the organisms that are involved in fermentation. You know, in Ghana, we eat a lot of fermented foods. So these are mostly the lactic acid bacteria and yeast. So we work with the bad microorganisms and we also work with the good microorganisms.
Director of the CSIR Food Research Institute, Professor Mary Obodai, says microorganisms may travel all the way from soil to table.
We are not a regulatory body like the Food and Drugs Authority. They regulate the food, and then GSAs set the standards. But we test to look at the safety. Is your food safe for us to consume? What is the microbial load? What is the mycotoxin content? What is the nutritional composition of the food you are putting out there?
Food fraud is another cause of food poisoning and thus kills.
Food poisoning comes through many forms. You know, we have food fraud, we have food adulteration, we have food where they mix certain chemicals that are not supposed to be used in the food that is consumed.
Another reality check came from the director of CSIR's Science and Technology Policy Research Institute, STEPRI, Dr. Wilhelmina Quay.
It's not about superstition. It's not about, spiritual things. The white man would not wait for a pastor to tell him or her that you are sick because your mother doesn't like you. No, you are sick. What is it? You go to see your doctor. you are sick. What is it? You check your diet.
The Food Microbiology Lab of CSIR Ghana is accredited by the International Standards Organization, ISO. Where there are no local benchmarks, the lab applies itself to European Union standards. Napoleon Atukito reporting.